What's up, family? Welcome to Genesis chapter 2, and the title of the text is The Seventh Day, starting in verse 1. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. Verse 1. This verse serves as a complement to chapter 1, verse 1. Together, the two set the first 6 days of creation apart from the sacred seventh day. And on the seventh day, God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. Verse 2. This is the first use of the number 7 in the Bible, a number that will play a specifically significant role in the religious and social life of ancient Israel. On the seventh day, God rested, thus setting an example for people who are made in his image to follow in Exodus chapter 20, verse 8 through 11. Though God rested from all his work which he had made, this is not to say that God had abandoned the universe. In the New Testament, Jesus affirmed that God is still at work in the world, even on the Shabbat, in John chapter 5, verse 16 through 17. Also, God's rest does not imply that he was tired. It literally means cease, and implies only that his creative work was complete. And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made. Verse 3. This is the only instance during the creation process when God blessed a unit of time. The term sanctified is applied in the Bible to something set aside for service to God. These are the generations of the heavens and of the earth when they were created in the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens. Verse 4. The Hebrew word teledoth, translated here as generations, is used 11 times in the book of Genesis to introduce new units of material. Here it introduces a detailed elaboration of some key aspects of the creation account that opens the book of Genesis. Special emphasis is placed on the events of day 6. Verse 4 includes the first use of God's personal name, rendered in English as the Lord, the most commonly used noun in the Old Testament. The Hebrew spelling is transliterated as Yahweh, hence common suggestions include Jehovah and Yahweh. And every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew. For the Lord God had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground. Verse 5. The plant of the field and the herb of the field are not the same as the vegetation described in Genesis chapter 1, verse 11 through 12, but are the plants that will make up the Garden of Eden. But there went up a mist from the earth and watered the whole face of the ground, and the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Verse 7. The Hebrew verb translated here as formed is used elsewhere in the Bible to describe the potter's profession in Jeremiah 18 and verse 4. God acts here as the divine potter, skillfully fashioning man out of the dust of the ground, but the Bible makes it very clear that people are more than just material beings. It was only when God breathed into the man's nostrils the breath of life that Adam became alive. When God breathed into him, Adam and all later humans became a unique mix of the physical and the spiritual. The Hebrew phrase translated as living soul is used elsewhere in the Genesis to describe other types of living beings. Nevertheless, humans are considered to be in a class by themselves since they alone are made in God's image. And the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. Verse 8. The location of Eden is unknown. Suggestions include Armenia, Iraq, Africa, and Arabia. The Hebrew word Eden literally means pleasantness. And out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. The tree of life is also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Verse 9. God's concern for beauty is seen in the fact that the trees he caused to grow were pleasant to the sight. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence it was parted and became into 4 heads. The name of the first is Pison, that is it which compasses the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. Verse 11. The location of the Pison River is unknown. A land known as Havilah existed in the region of the Arabian Peninsula at a later point in time in 1 Samuel 15, verse 7. But the pre-flood land may have represented a different locale. And the gold of that land is good. There is Delim and the onyx stone, and the name of the second river is Gihon. The same is it that compasseth the whole land of Ethiopia. Verse 13. The location of the Gihon River and Ethiopia are known. A later Ethiopia was located in the region of modern Ethiopia and Sudan in Esther 1:1. And the name of the third river is Hiddekel, that is, it which goeth toward the east of Assyria, and the fourth river is Euphrates. Verse 14. The Hiddekel and Euphrates River, as well as Assyria, probably corresponds to geographical features associated with modern Iraq. And the Lord God took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. Verse 15. As a being created in God's image, Adam, like God, was to be a worker. Without the taint of sin, work was undiluted blessing. The verb translated here as dress literally means serve. Adam's second task in the garden was to keep it. The verb is used elsewhere to refer to the action of God toward his people in Psalms 121:3-4, or the work of military guard. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, Of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it. For in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die. Verse 17. The only limit God placed on Adam was eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which apparently imparted divine wisdom. Eating the forbidden fruit represented Adam's rejection of God as the source of divine wisdom and his choice to pursue wisdom apart from God. The penalty for disobedience was stated especially forcefully in the original language with a two-verb construction, dying you shall die. Thou shalt surely die. Although Adam and Eve did not die physically on the day they ate the fruit, they died spiritually. And the Lord God said, It is not good that a man should be alone. I will make him a helpmeet for him. Verse 18. God declared that Adam's being alone is not good. God created the man with a need to relate to one who was an helpmeet. And now God filled that need. And out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. And Adam gave names to all cattle, and to the fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found a helpmeet for him. Verse 19. Like man, God formed animals out of the ground, but they received neither the breath of life from God, nor the image of God. By giving names to the animals, Adam showed that he ruled the animals and that he perceived the nature of each animal. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. Verse 21. Because God took one of his ribs to use as his raw material, the woman would correspond perfectly, though not identically, to Adam. Like Adam, the woman possessed God's image. And the rib which the Lord God had taken from man made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. And Adam said, This is now bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Verse 22-23. Adam's first recorded words express his delight with God's handiwork and his recognition of the unique suitability of God's last recorded acts in the creation accounts. As with no other work of divine craftsmanship, this one was singularly suited for the man, being bones of his bones and flesh of his flesh. Adam viewed her as his equal. The Hebrew term Isha, woman, identifies her as the feminine complement to Ish, the man. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. Verse 24. God's timeless design for marriage is declared here. The one flesh relationship certainly involves sexual union, but also includes a husband and wife coming together in spiritual, mental, and emotional harmony. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. Verse 25. Because the devastating effects of sin had not yet ravaged nature or humanity, there was no need for clothing.